With 2019 now coming to a close, it seemed like the best time to take a look back. A look back at the year overall, and of course, in particular, at the top 10 Fallout 4 mods to come out over this past year. 2019 was an interesting one. I don't know if it was the best year for Fallout 4 mods, but it was definitely up there. We saw some substantial and really game-changing releases. Mods that came out in 2019 that you'll be using for years to come will be on recommended mod lists for quite a while. We without a doubt saw the peak of what is possible in Fallout 4 modding, and for that reason, I'm excited to share with you my personal top 10 list. But again, this is subjective. I would love to hear from some of you guys down below. What are some things that you thought should have gone on this but didn't make the list? There's actually going to probably be some surprises on here. Some things that, although popular, many people probably wouldn't put on their top 10, but I definitely did. But with all that being said, if you enjoy the content or want to see more, you can leave a like or subscribe. I'll probably be doing a list like this for the next couple years at the very least. But with that, let's take a look first at the Machine and Her, one of the most exciting quest mods to release in Fallout 4 in 2019. So this mod was pretty awesome. At its core, what it was a quest mod, a new experience in Fallout 4 based all around this new companion that you could receive that with Kit. Kit is fully voiced.
Okay, Agnes, why don't I give our visitor a quick tour of the station myself?
Has several custom features such as lockpicking and hacking in a better and more functional way. And like many of the other quest mods out there, this has all of the staples. A fully fledged story, over 6,000 lines of dialogue, taking you to some new and unique locations. And although there were several other quest mods to come out this year, I think one of the main reasons I liked this one more than the rest was the story itself. The story on this one was well done and well produced. The characters were interesting, different, but at the same time fit in with Fallout 4's world. Sometimes during the story you got cinematic cutscenes that really drew you in. You had tangible choices with consequence throughout this. And these were choices you had to think about. It wasn't like there was an easy yes or no answer. And although for me the story was likely my favorite part, this also left you with some pretty cool stuff in Fallout 4. So even after playing the story, you had a lot to experience. And even some level of replayability, as there are separate story outcomes, which are heavily dependent on the choices you make, which route you choose throughout this story overall. Of course, a new fully fledged companion that has quite a few unique features. In particular, my favorite was the bark feature. So like when a raider would say something to Kit, she would have a line just snappy right back at them.
Just get warmed up over here.
Too bad, because you're about to get real cold, real fast.
That was really cool and satisfying, but also things like a full-fledged radio. There's a lot of content here, a lot to enjoy, a lot to be left with, and a lot of rewards you do get from completing this one. But with a new story to experience, a new quest to go on, you probably want some stuff to use during that. So with what may be a surprising choice to some of you, next up we do have the LString Fallout Bow. Bows and arrows make their debut in Fallout 4, finally, as this has been highly requested for several years now. At its core, this is actually an extremely simple mod. It's going to add in a bow and arrow, in fact 3 separate variants, a very simple wooden one or some more high-tech bows that are more used in a modern day setting. But of course, with a bow and arrow, you need a wide variety of arrows that you can use, whether it be explosive arrows, homing arrows, or even just the typical stone-tipped arrows. And really, there's two main reasons I love this mod, and it makes it into my top 10. First and foremost, it's unique. The vast majority of the time, you get modern military equipment as far as Fallout 4 weapon mods. There, of course, is some variety in that, but there literally isn't a bow and arrow. This is a one of one, at least as of right now. It's not the most feature-rich, but it is easily one of the coolest, and definitely different from everything else. But secondly, it is just really satisfying to use. Being able to time and actually land up some shots with this thing is some of the most fun I've had in Fallout 4's combat system pretty much since release and we first got our hands on it. When you couple that with the fact that there are such a wide variety of arrows to choose from and how you could change them on the fly, it does create both a fun early game and even late game option. Great for stealth character builds or even running gun builds. But what I would say actually takes this to the next level, makes that mod and really all weapon mods even a bit more enjoyable, are kill tips and hit sound. So this might be a surprising one to some of you, as it is in fact the least endorsed mod on this list overall, and arguably the least popular on this list. What this mod will do is, one, add in a little sound effect when you actually land hits on enemies. There are a few to choose from, but just any of them are satisfying to hear. And secondly, have an on-screen pop-up when you actually fully finish off an enemy. And this does have integration for many of the weapon mods all throughout Fallout 4. So with that little pop-up, you'll see whatever weapon or weapon mod you are using have a little icon there. Overall, I can see how at first glance, looking at this from the outside, it seems not super Fallout or people aren't a fan of it, but after using this now for several months, I am a huge fan of it. You've seen it consistently in videos. It's probably one of my most asked about mods as of late, and it's extremely satisfying to use. It just makes that gunplay feel a little bit more snappy. It also comes with this bullet time effect. It's probably one of the best bullet time effects I've ever seen because you can only use it while aiming. So it just flows really well with combat naturally, but I don't use bullet time super often, and frankly all three aspects of this mod, the on-hit sound effect, the actual pop-up on screen, and the bullet time are optional. You could use some and not others, or use all of them. But then we have one that I think is shockingly underrated, and that is Fallout 2287 Nuclear Winter. This mod released earlier in 2019, right at the end of winter itself. That's actually a fairly simple one. What it'll do is add in cold effects into Fallout 4. You'll not have to worry about your temperature, your internal body temperature, but also sometimes the temperature effects on some of your items, like food freezing. To achieve this, it'll actually add in an insulation effect that will apply to all of the various armors you could find in Fallout 4, and does have out-of-the-box support for several outfits or armors added in by custom mods. And really, at its core, you're going to have to worry about heat sources and the weather. You can't just ignore whether or not it's raining or windy or cold and snowing. You'll have to think about things like that. If you see a drastic weather change and you're out adventuring on survival mode, you'll have to go inside and find a heat source or create your own. It is a really cool one, and I think one of my favorite parts of it is, at its core, it's relatively simple. It just means don't get cold or try and avoid that. But it is a quite pervasive effect all throughout Fallout 4, and it leads to several very interesting and dynamic changes to your own gameplay. It makes weather a now powerful and formidable force in this game, especially if you don't respect it. If you let yourself get too cold or develop varying degrees of hypothermia, you'll get significant debuffs, and that'll suck or eventually kill you. It also adds in these frozen ghouls, which are just a really nice extra addition. But then we have the final standalone weapon mod on this list. That was the Mark 41 Gyrojet HMG. This is probably the best or most well integrated weapon mod into Fallout 4. The weapon itself is very unique. It's actually going to be this little heavy machine gun that fires mini missiles, which have the very unique gameplay characteristic where, as they travel further, they actually don't receive any fall off, but rather do increase damage. Think of it as they come up to speed the further away a target is. As far as the weapon mod itself, it has a wide variety of unique and interesting custom modification options. Some of the typical stuff, but other cool things like a homing sequence mode, or even other things like mini nuke missiles and a variety of other explosives that you can fire with this. The weapon itself is really cool, but if it was just this weapon, craftable at a chemistry station, or integrated into the leveled list, this probably wouldn't appear in this video. As I mentioned at the start of this one, what really sets this apart is its integration into Fallout 4. The way you find the weapon is immensely lore-friendly. You're going to have to go to a fort where this was in development, a prototype of this was dropped off, as well as boxes of ammo, and that's it. That's the only way you could find this. You pick it up there, you learn the ways to craft additional ammo if you run out, and it just feels really natural, like a legendary or unique special weapon in Fallout 4 that should have been there to begin with. It also adds in these little sticker packs that you're going to find all throughout Fallout 4. As you open these, you'll get a random assortment of stickers, some being extremely rare, some being very common. You can place these down as decorations in settlements or even put the stickers on the weapon itself, but then finally you could actually find a variety of experimental or legendary mods for this one. Since there's really just one gyrojet that you could find in a building somewhere, you can't get a legendary version of it. It's not integrated into the level list. So the workaround for this are experimental weapon caches that were being shipped into the Commonwealth, but now of course are laying around somewhere. You find these and can get unique or interesting benefits to this weapon, making it even more powerful. But really, taking it all together, even though it is technically just one weapon mod, it has so many little or other things going for it that it is a super interesting one, and honestly, almost like a DLC by itself. And just trying to get some of the essentials for this weapon, you could spend quite a few hours exploring or adventuring throughout Fallout 4. But who doesn't like exploring or adventuring throughout Fallout 4 while it's scary? Considering some of my horror videos are some of my most popular, I imagine quite a few of you actually do really like that. And as such, next up we do have Grimm, which has quickly become one of my favorite mods for Fallout 4 ever. This is an interesting one as it actually is still in early access. Right now you can only get it on the Mod Authors Discord server. You could find it in the downloads channel, but overall it is still a very complete and enjoyable experience. Grimm is basically an all-in-one top-to-bottom horror overhaul for Fallout 4. It does the essentials, like adding in a new and different look for the game through a new and very customizable ENB. This has a lot of settings to it. You can make it darker, lighter, have some crazy effects on screen, like a found footage effect. And also, to go along with this, it does affect the music and ambient sounds throughout this game. Now sometimes as an enemy pops up, a cue with music will also appear with that, really upping the fear factor. The music is tied to enemy spawns and in-game events, but also other things like weathers. And this has a major effect at actually building tension as you're playing through this mod. You'll slowly hear the music start building up, and then some enemies will start popping out around you. And I think that's where this mod really goes on to the next level. To flesh it out, there is a wide variety of new, custom, and pretty scary enemies added into Fallout 4. Skeletons, werewolves, other crazy things from horror movies, games, or media, and actually fits in pretty well into Fallout 4. And even though that itself really gives you a fairly comprehensive horror experience, this mod still goes a little bit further. It also involves several quests. At the start of this, you are cursed. The nature of this curse, what exactly is going on with it, isn't made totally clear to you. There will be some quests to actually clear up and fix this curse on you, but if you don't, you may at times start hallucinating, seeing enemies that aren't actually there even though other enemies are, seeing other things in the world overall that don't make sense. This will happen at random from time to time, and it makes Fallout 4's Commonwealth very scary, but also very immersive in a way. There also is a chance you'll be sucked into an otherworld, where here the enemies are turned up to 11. Things are scarier and you're going to have to find your way to a tree of life to escape it. And again, this is something that could just happen at random some nights. So if you're not prepared for it, or if you're not well equipped at that time, it can be extremely difficult. All around, Grimm is easily the best horror mod ever to come out for Fallout 4, and really just one of the best mods in general. If you enjoy that scary experience and you haven't tried this mod out, you really are missing out. It definitely is worth a go. And although again, right now it is still in early access, over the next few months, there are many planned updates, as well as a Nexus and console release. One of the most surprising things to me around my mod list this year is just how many great weapon mods there were. I feel like weapon mods don't typically make it into top 5 or top 10 lists, at least for me, mostly because they're normally simple. I tend to prefer or be biased towards gameplay enhancing mods or quest or story mods, giving in a lot of new options to this game. But in 2019, we got a ton of great weapon mods, such that even many of the ones that didn't make it onto this list, such as if I did a top 15, you would see quite a bit more in the way of weapon mods. But for the third and final weapon mod in this video, we do have an easy choice, that with the Russian Assault Pack. What this mod is going to do is add in 5 new weapons into Fallout 4 and 1 new armor to go along with it. These fill out the weapon categories pretty well. You get everything down from a revolver to a full-on sniper rifle, and pretty much everything in between, and honestly, for each of these individual weapons, there's nothing super crazy. If this was 5 standalone releases, I don't know if any of them would have been on this list, but the reason this stands out is in just one singular download, you get 5 weapon mods with a ton of customizability, many featuring custom animations, custom sounds, and just fitting perfectly into Fallout 4. Typically when you get weapon packs like this, there is a slacking somewhere. Maybe it's not up to par with standalone weapon mods that we're used to, or it just doesn't have nearly as many customization options. But with this one, that's just not the case. Each of these individual weapons are fully fledged and exactly what you would hope something like it would be. One of the awesome parts of this is it is integrated into Fallout 4's leveled list. So as a result of just downloading this one mod, many enemies will carry new and unique weapons. And if somebody just came up to me and was like, hey, I want a few cool new gun mods for Fallout 4, this is the first thing I would recommend to them. And hopefully the success of this mod will lead to more weapon packs in the future, because even still, after 4 years now, it is a fairly rare sight. But then moving over to what is actually one of my favorite mods for Fallout 4, we do have Depravity. I've talked about this mod so much in 2019, mostly because, as I've mentioned, it is one of my favorite mods. Depravity is a quest mod. Like many other mods out there right now, it'll add in new quests into Fallout 4. You'll meet up with a new raider-based faction. These guys are enemies of the Gunners, which make the Gunners a little bit more interesting. It'll take you to familiar locations. You'll have quests bring you to Diamond City and changing aspects of that town. Also, many focused around Good Neighbor. But as I've said many times before, the reason I like this mod more than so many of the rest is how it integrates into Fallout 4's main story. This isn't a diversion questline. These aren't totally separate quests that you can complete, but rather new ones that progress Fallout 4's story in a different way. They give you new and additional options, which is a very welcome change after so many of us have completed this game in the traditional fashion so many times now. This gives you that alternative evil playthrough, something that a lot of us have been hoping for. And it does so in a really cool and lore-friendly way, and it, again, is easily one of the best mods to replay Fallout 4 with. And I would actually argue maybe the single best mod to replay Fallout 4's story with. But in fact, the mod author behind Depravity is the only mod author to appear twice in this video, as the other mod they did create, Settler and Companion Dialogue Overhaul, is another one that many people have already downloaded, and I don't think many people will be uninstalling anytime soon. What this will do is overhaul the dialogue of others in Fallout 4. It takes some of the cut content from the game and reintegrates that into the dialogue options of both companions, settlers, and even some of the miscellaneous raiders or gunners you do encounter. So now they'll have more things to say, and if you've played this game a lot, that is substantial because you're so used to hearing the same repetitive lines one time after another, but separately it cuts down on that repetition. It makes it so sometimes after an NPC says one thing, they won't repeat it until a certain amount of time elapses. I think on paper this sounds like a relatively minor change, but if you're somebody who does play Fallout 4 quite often, you'll know how huge of an impact this can have. Not hearing everyone at your settlement comment on the fact that you're using a crafting table for the 1000th time is actually really big. In some ways, this is just a massive quality of life mod, cutting down on the redundancy or annoyance of some of those miscellaneous NPCs or even your own companions. But even further, it adds in new content also. Many of the companions in the game have new miscellaneous side quests that you can complete, this all feeling extremely lore-friendly and natural, as many cut or old dialogue options are reused to integrate these in a really nice way. And one of my favorite aspects is there's quite a bit of new situation-appropriate dialogue. So if you complete a quest or go to a certain location, your companions will comment on it, making them feel a little bit more lively and like they're actually doing something and paying attention.
Always wanted my own fortress.
So those were the 9 of the best mods to come out for Fallout 4 in 2019, but for number 10, it's not just one of the best mods, or at least not in my eyes, but rather the very best mod. My number 1, the top release of 2019, which for me, and probably to none of your surprise, is easily Sim Settlements Conqueror. Sim Settlements has been around for a while now. Sim Settlements by itself and even some of the other expansions are good. Vastly improves Fallout 4 settlement mode, makes it a lot more fun, but Sim Settlements Conqueror almost creates a totally new gameplay experience in Fallout 4, and actually in more ways than one. There's a lot to talk about with this mod, but just one of the first things, something I've been wanting for such a long time. With Fallout 4, this mod will add in pre-built cities into the game. So now, many of those settlements that typically were just vacant or fairly empty lots will now be sprawling cities with tons of settlers building their way up in them. These cities will grow on their own. You literally don't have to do anything. It makes these locations so much more interesting and enjoyable rather than just that little desolate area that kind of existed before. But one of the main reasons for these new cities is now you could actually play as a raider or a conqueror. Very similar to Depravity, this also gives you an alternate way to start and play through Fallout 4's early quests. As now, right off the bat, you're going to meet a brand new raider, who does give you a very interesting proposal to take down and clear out Preston Garvey's crew, which you can do, basically eliminating the Minutemen right off the bat. And rather, now you're going from the raider perspective. One major aspect of this mod is just the quests you will do for this raider. There are several of these that'll take you to some familiar locations, but you'll meet quite a few new faces, and they are extremely well done and interesting. If you only downloaded this at release, several updates have added to this aspect of it, but what is easily my favorite part of this mod is that after siding with this raider, completing some of his quests, you can start to conquer the Commonwealth, as the name kind of does suggest. Beginning as a raider, you'll start your own raider settlements and be able to recruit your own raiders that will go to war for you. In the settlement system itself, there are now several new buildings, new plot types that do give your soldiers a variety of benefits. But of course, with this comes the fact that, one, there's a ton of other cities now all throughout the Commonwealth that you do have the ability to conquer, loot, or pillage, but also there will be competing factions also in the Commonwealth. You may get attacked by gunners. You may find yourself having to defend some of your outposts or settlements. And the very unique aspect of this mod is it integrates several systems for you to actually control and run an empire in Fallout 4. No longer do you just have a bunch of standalone settlements that you have to build up, but rather you'll have little cities that you'll have to collectively manage. And of course, a core part of that is defending them. And the way this is done in particular is really awesome. There's a totally new and custom HUD integrated into the game, so you could easily get a look at your faction overall, or even just that particular settlement in an instant. There'll be various faction leaders you have to assign to rule some of these areas. But since release, one of the coolest parts of this, one of the parts about this mod that keeps me coming back to it, is there have been a variety of mods to release for this mod. Several faction packs have come out, so maybe you don't want to play as a raider, maybe you want to play as the Minutemen, maybe you want to play as the Institute, or even some of the past factions like the Enclave can make a return with this. You'll have that same functionality, but rather now you'll be conquering the Commonwealth under the Enclave flag, and your troops and settlements will reflect that, having their own personalization and customization options. All around, this really is like a new game or new expansion for Fallout 4. There is so much content and so much time you could spend just playing this mod, even with literally no other mods, that it easily is the top of this list. The base mod itself, but then a lot of the various additional mods that have come out for the mod. It really is one of the best mods to come out for Fallout 4, just not in 2019, but ever. And if you somehow have yet to play it, it definitely is a great time to get into it. Otherwise, yeah, that is my list of the top 10 mods to come out for Fallout 4 in 2019. There are a lot of great mods this year. As such, there are some great ones that didn't quite make it onto this list that are still incredible. I'll have some of my favorite honorable mentions down below in the description. But I'd also love to hear from all of you. What is one of your favorite mods from this year, or several? In particular, maybe some of the ones that you loved that didn't make it onto this video. Or what about some surprising ones? Were you shocked to see me include one or another, or one over another? Either way, with all of that being said, it's pretty much going to wrap it up for this one. As always, again, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.
Look, just keep your mouth shut for a tick and hear me out. I got a kind of proposition for you. I need you to kill all the douchebag raiders ahead of me